Okay, now that we know how to move around a document, and this should be in your notes now, now we're going to go back to that same document and just talk about selecting text. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier for you to see. If we want to select a word, yes, we all know how to take our mouse and click and hold and click and drag and highlight, one or more words. Then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes there's better ways to do it. If you want to highlight just one word quickly, just take your mouse, put it over the word, and double click. And if you double click on the word, then it's selected. Okay? Now what happens if you click 3 times on a word? Go ahead and try it and tell me what happens. Correct. If you hit 3 times on a word, the entire paragraph is selected. So if you want to move an entire paragraph, click 3 times on the word. Boom, you've selected it. Now you can do something with it. If you click 4 times, notice it toggles back. So you can keep clicking and go in between single word and the entire paragraph. That's one way you can select a word. Another way we can do this is by using the Shift key. So if you put your mouse at the beginning of a word, doesn't matter, and hold down the Shift key, and then arrow to the right, you'll notice you're highlighting or selecting one character at a time. Okay? Same thing with the down arrow. If you hold down the Shift key and here the down arrow or the up arrow, you notice that you're selecting one line at a time, and it's from where at the central point, the axis here is wherever the insertion point is. So you can go either direction as long as the arrow key or the Shift key is held down. Now, in the last video, we learned that we can go Control arrow to move one word at a time. If you hold down Shift and the Control key, Shift and Control, and arrow one way or the other, you can highlight one word at a time. You might have figured out that if you hold down both Shift and Control at the same time, and arrow down or up arrow, you can highlight one paragraph at a time. So those are some quick ways to highlight words and or paragraphs. Now go ahead and pause the video and kind of play around with this as I'm doing it. You might have to back the video up and listen to what it says because I'm going through kind of fast. Because I want you to just kind of play with it and pause it and come back and kind of keep it moving. Okay. Some other things we can do is if you want to select one line of text, like this line here, I just clicked and dragged it, which is one way to do it. But if you take your mouse and you move it over to the left-hand margin, notice how it turns from an I-beam into a white arrow. And when it's a white arrow, if you click once in the left-hand margin, you'll notice that you've selected that line of text. What happens if you click twice in the left-hand margin? Go ahead and try that. Click twice there, and yes, you've selected the entire paragraph. If you click 3 times in the left-hand margin, you've selected the entire document, all your text in your entire document. Go ahead and click someplace in the middle to deselect. And what is the keyboard shortcut for selecting all your text? Go ahead and try it. The keyboard shortcut is to hold down the Control key and hit A. So hold down Control A, and that's the keyboard shortcut for highlighting everything. So sometimes you want to highlight everything to change the font size or type. There's a quick way to do it. Okay. Now there's some other things we can do. We can select our text. I'm going to zoom out for this so we can see a little bit more of our page. My insertion point's right here in the middle, and if we want to highlight from that insertion point all the way down to the end of the document, we hold down the Shift key and Control key and hit the End key, E-N-D. Control Shift N highlights all the way down. I'm going to scroll back up, and you'll notice that from the insertion point down is highlighted. And you might have guessed it, Control Shift Home highlights everything from the insertion point up to the top. So there's some different ways that you can highlight text. All right, and for different reasons you'll want to use those ways. You should be stopping the video again and just playing with this a little bit, testing your memory and testing out the different ways that you can select text in a document. Now sometimes, I'm going to zoom back in so you can see, sometimes we want to select a sentence. You want to edit or delete a particular sentence. So go ahead and pick a sentence that starts on one line and ends on another. Like this one right here. It starts on this line and ends on it. And yes, we could click and drag to select it. But another way to select an entire sentence is to take your mouse and hover over the sentence, anywhere over the sentence, doesn't matter where. Hold down the Control key and click. So Control click allows you to highlight an entire sentence. Now the only exceptions with this is if you had like an abbreviation or a doctor, anywhere where a period is, it would highlight to the period. So if you had like, Dr. Smith is going to the clinic, it would stop at the doctor where the period is. But again, it's a quick way to highlight a sentence. Control click. Okay. Let's see, what else can we do? Do you know how to highlight vertically? So vertically means down and then over. So we all know when you click and drag, it highlights across first and then all the way down. And that's fine. Sometimes you might want to highlight vertically. So take your mouse, click, and see if you can figure out, what do you click and drag to highlight vertically, like this. Go ahead and play and try to figure it out. Okay. Yep. So if you can't figure it out, I'll let you know. Hold down the Alt key. So put your mouse where you want it to begin, hold down the Alt key, and then click and drag the mouse down and then over. And it's kind of fun to do this. Highlight like a third of the paragraph and change the font color. I'm going to change it to red. Now I'm going to take the mouse and hold down the Alt key, the Alt key, and go down and across and highlight the middle third. And I'm going to choose a different color for that, maybe a yellow. And then I will do the same thing for the last third. Hold down the Alt key, click and drag, highlight that, and let's make that, like a purple or dark blue. It doesn't have to be these colors, but again, I want you to vertically highlight a third and put 3 different colors in the paragraph. Now we're going to highlight the entire paragraph. You can do that by clicking twice in the left-hand margin or 3 times on a word. And we're going to use the keyboard shortcut to increase or decrease font size. So increase, decrease font size is you hold the Control key down and use the upper or lower bracket, the open or closed brackets. The open and closed brackets are those square things above the Enter key next to the letter P. And as you do, it kind of gives a kind of a cool effect as you're looking at, right? You can go all the way down, you can go all the way, you can make it as big as you want, or you can make it as small as you want. Okay? And gives you kind of a cool effect. So take a second, pause the video, and you can play with that. And then we'll come back and we'll show you a few more things before we wrap things up. Okay? Okay. And once you're done playing with that for a few minutes, I want you to go back to your notes and add this information into your notes. So in order to select a word, you can double click. In order to select a line, right, click once in the left-hand margin. In order to click a sentence, you Control click in the sentence. To select a paragraph, you can triple click in the paragraph on a word, or you can double click in the left-hand margin. To select the entire document, you can triple click in the left-hand margin, or the keyboard shortcut is Control A. Go ahead and pause the video and get that in your notes. before we move on into the next set of information here. Okay.